Hello. Test 1, 2. Hello. Hello. Erica, go over there. Erica just got sold to GTFO.
Let me know if I need to talk to anybody.
They're driving me. They're wearing me down. My patience.
Erica just got sold to GTFO. Poor Erica. All Erica wanted to do was say hi. And then she stood there. And then they said, go away. They said, go away. Go away. Poor Erica.
Down in the wire.
So this is the microphone that I plugged in for myself. They'll turn on their microphones in a few. But that doesn't get started until the session begins. The fun part is you usually don't get to figure out if it's a mic or a line signal until the very moment that they begin, at which point your ears get blown out if you had it set to mic and they're outputting a line signal. I don't know if I told you guys, but there's a House and a Senate bill, and they're both discussing the exact same thing at the exact same time, making it impossible to testify at both. So I chose the House bill because the House bill is the one that has the most opposition physically here. I already see people in the audience that are anti-repair. Wish me luck.
What's this bill? What are you guys here for? Right to repair. Right to what? Right to repair. Good to see you, man. Stay healthy. I will. I'll be close. Next week. We'll get together. Thursday?
I thought this guy was Obama. Eh. Like at the corner of my eye, I thought to myself, that's Obama. Yeah, so they let me record here. The Senate's not letting me record. They said that, yeah, I need to press pass. So, and this, maybe I can get you in. Send me some information. So I sent them and I said, so here's me recording in Albany. Here's me recording in Albany again. Here's me recording in Nebraska. Here's me recording in Boston. And I said, nope, you still can't plug into the patch panel. And she gave me a piece of paper that said why. And the piece of paper was saying that the people who record need to be people who are not trying to influence the sway of any sort of election or political manner. And they need to be broadcasting for the purpose of news dissemination to the public. Great, so that means that MSNBC, CNN, Fox, and just about every other outlet that's ever released an article or a news piece that showed any sort of bias one way or the other is not going to be allowed to plug into your patch panel, right? Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, gotta turn up your... Who's Cinevision? Wait a second. Cinevision? Cine... Oh, I know Cinevision. No cookie. Time to get started. Face focus is good. This camera is auto face focus, but it's really fast. See how that tracks? None of that Panasonic GH4 shit where it takes 3 seconds to focus on someone's face. Instant. Big brain. Everybody say hello to the wonderful and fabulous Eric Coco.
Everybody told me for the first chain on Nice Ocean City was, I drove right there and said, I got to Delaware, all right, this must be what I caught, all right, like San Diego, like this is nice. Yeah, that's yours. Oh, it's really tall building. We need more t-shirts.
Come on. Let's get started. Hey. We wait, we wait, we wait, we wait.
But it puts Section E back in. But it still puts Section E back in. Because the way it is now, we still both in hand. Full circle.
Tell them it's closer to. Oh, yeah, I'm sure that's gonna work. Hey, look, I see the ESA lobbyist. Do you guys remember the person that said that the game plays the console? I'm not sure if that's it, actually. Not sure if I recognize it. I think that's it, actually.
Looks like we're headed for another, what was it? It was a work group subcommittee or whatever it was 8 years ago.
Oh, yeah. No, still exists.
The game plays the console. Fun memes. He super cooks this thing. They're all very happy with each other.
Hello.
These people are all so happy and kind to each other. It's really nice. They're cooperative. They smile at each other. They're happy. Seem to genuinely like each other.
We got an amendment that puts in that really close.
Chris, we getting started, please? I have places to go. Fun debate this morning.
Bill is saying is, if it fits the criteria,
You got a nice roll call vote.
because it's already going behind the permitted fence. It's already going behind.
Minority whip. Every customer of ours will receive
And if it fits the criteria,
a tax,
and if this is
provided we pay what we currently pay. It's called 419, 3,000, if you have any questions.
dollar fits the law.
We did have a phone company involved in it. Because you fix the tax and fees, so just have a call her.
This guy's a real bulldog. I heard him talk before on privacy and healthcare legislation. It was he asked some really tough questions, and he had the lobbyist from the health insurance company on the run. It was really good. So he's either, I guess this guy's either going to wind up grilling them, or he's going to grill the crap out of me. Either way, I'm kind of curious and looking forward to what it is that he's going to say. And no, that's not maximum zoom, baby. You want to see maximum zoom? You want to see maximum zoom? Look at that. Look at that. I can see the individual hairs on your head if I want to with this camera. Lossless digital zoom, baby. So that's where I'm standing right here, right? That's nice, right? You like that? You like that? Yeah. Now he's gonna grill the shit. No, but really, this is CSI level enhance. I got this camera for $1,000 about 7 years ago. It's an NEX EA50, and it's amazing. Because there's digital zoom, and then there's lossless digital zoom. And what you just saw there is lossless digital zoom. Yeah, you like that, right? You like that, don't you? Makes you want to go to B&H right now, doesn't it? Makes you want to go to B&H and spend money.
I remember his dad. I was a baby.
It can, because I believe that sensor can actually capture more detail than this lens can. This is a big room. Check it out. You want to go enhance again? Enhance, 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 enhance. But wait, there's more. Enhance. Now, back to normal. I'm so easily entertained, I swear. I'm very easily entertained, aren't I? Enhance. Why would you not capture at 8K and at a higher frame rate at 4K? What? Yo, you outside my budget right now. We're staying at the $73 Comfort Inn. Recording with my nice 8-year-old camcorder.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
You guys may have your 8K and your 4K 120 frames a second, but what I got is enhance. Enhance. That guy to the right is Drew. He helped me submit my testimony. I forgot my testimony in my office. I actually left a printed copy in the USB sitting on top of my desk while I was rushing to pack. And he printed it out. He got a USB for me. He introduced me to a bunch of people here. He got me set up, checked in, showed me all the rooms. Very nice guy. So everybody, it's a round of applause for Drew, who came here on his day off. He works in the legislative building, but he came on his day off just to show me around and make sure that we were all able to get settled in. And thank you very much to Drew. He's on the right. Where is Jessa? Someone said Jessa is streaming, but where is she? I don't see a Jessa here. Is she streaming the Senate version? By the way, for all of you who are curious, I see Jessa now. I found her. She's using my other lens. I lent it to her. I gave her an enhanced lens as well. Here, check it out. So Jessa's got the enhance lens. That's Jessa right there. Jessa, show us your lens. Show us that enhance lens you got. Jessa. Zoom in on me. Oh, she's zooming. She's enhancing. Check it out. Enhance. Jess is trolling me. But yeah, I gave her a super lens so that she could do super zoom too. Got her off of that schlub kit lens that comes with it. So right to repair is going to be the first bill they talk about, so we don't have any propane this time. No propane. It's a crowded, packed house we got here today, folks. Look at all the people. Let's see if anybody can pick out the familiar faces. Can anybody find the CTIA lobbyist? Can anybody find the ESA lobbyist? Kind of curious to see if CompTIA will be here.
It's going to be right to repair farm equipment first, and then afterwards they're going to talk about another topic, and then it's going to be right to repair consumer protection.
All right, so I'm not going to be talking in the farm one. I'm only testifying in the normal one because if I start talking about farm equipment, I'm going to make a complete ass of myself. I'm not trying to pretend I know anything about farms or farming. Propane. No propane, no propane accessories. Why is yours so smooth compared to hers? Because Jessa is using a $5 tripod and I'm using a $560 Manfrotto tripod. That's why. We enhanced to find grandma. Enhance. Enhance. There's no reason for me to save video of nothing. I also have a bunch of crap on this from prior hearings. So I use Open Broadcaster and a Magewell HDMI dongle to record libx264, G equals 1 so that it's easier to edit, and CRF equals 8 so it's high bitrate, high quality, because my camera can only record 18 megabit per second AVC HD, which looks like shit. It's AVC HD with a baseline profile, not even main, baseline profile, something like 18 megabit per second. It's a joke. That for 1080p 60, that's trash. So I record over here, but I have a spare copy of that just in case my computer freezes, or in case my USB to HDMI dongle dies. 18 megabit is awful, especially if it's going to be recompressed later, because every time you edit, you're going to be recompressing it. 18 megabit standard AVC HD baseline profile. Ugh. We got standards here. Yeah, I actually have a separate audio recorder as well. You gotta recompress if you edit, mofo. We're about to get started, folks. Right to repair. Right to repair. Right to repair. Right. Erica's comments in the YouTube chat are making me MGTOW. If I ever decide to go MGTOW, let it be said that on today, March 11th, 2:47 p.m., Erica's comments in the YouTube chat are the reason. Look at that. You get a 2-minute timer. Look at that. I get 2 minutes to speak.
I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome everyone to the House Economic Matters Committee. Today is Wednesday, March 11th. We have 5 bills before us, the first being House Bill 1278. Delegate Shetty.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, Chair Davis, Vice Chair Dumais, and friends and colleagues of the House Economic Matters Committee. Thank you for the opportunity to testify in support of HB 1278. This is a bill that will help our state address the plague that is known as robocalls. For the record, I am Delegate Emily Shetty, here to ask for a favorable report on this bill. Robocalls are the bane of most of our existence. Not only are they a nuisance, but they are dangerous and predatory and disproportionately harm seniors by ruthlessly targeting them with scams, fake charities, social security threats, and other false promises. What this bill will do is help cut off robocalls at the source by requiring VoIP service providers in Maryland to know who their commercial customers are and gather information from individuals who are using their networks to place thousands to millions of calls per minute. The information that they will be required to collect is the legal name and the name in which the individual does business, contact information, physical location of the primary place of business, the state and country of origin, the federal tax ID, and the nature of the business. The idea for this bill came from a 50-state agreement signed in August of last year by all attorney generals, including Attorney General Frosch, and most of the major telecom companies, including those who are signed up to testify in opposition to this bill. This bill merely codifies the Know Your Customer requirement that is outlined in that agreement. What it will do is assist the attorney generals who are attempting to investigate the bad actors by collecting contact information so that the AGs can actually pursue legal action against those who are using our networks to do harm. It is already illegal here in Maryland to place unregistered, unsolicited robocalls, and our laws are actually quite strong. Violation includes penalties ranging from $5,000 and imprisonment to revocation of telemarketing licenses and the ability to conduct legitimate business for up to 10 years. However, how can we pursue action against individuals if we don't even know who they are? That's what this bill seeks to address, and what the telecom companies have already agreed to do as part of the agreement in August of last year. To be clear, the telecom companies hate robocalls just as much as we do. Robocalls clog the networks. They make service slower for customers who are seeking to engage in legitimate business and personal activity. And to their credit, the companies have delivered on a number of the promises that they signed on to in the agreement. One major promise was that at no charge to consumers, the companies would begin to utilize call screening tools to better identify potential scam calls and note that on our personal phones. You might have noticed that when you get these calls, you see this likely scam note that comes up. I commend them for doing this great work and ensuring that all these calls are better able to be screened by all of us. This is a major step forward that has undoubtedly helped to protect seniors and others in our communities. However, we must do more to protect consumers from these calls, and requiring telecom companies to collect this information will be a powerful way to ensure that when a bad actor engages in this activity, they will be caught and subjected to Maryland's strong penalties. According to recent studies, Maryland ranked number 1 as the state most bothered by robocalls in 2019, and victims in our state have actually lost $1.8 million just to the IRS impersonation scam alone as of January 31st of 2018, and I'm sure that number has grown since. As I've shared in this committee in the past, my elderly godmother was actually targeted by a crime ring of robocallers, and she lost over $150,000 of her life savings. So this issue is really personal to me. On behalf of each of these victims and the countless others who are subjected to unnecessary robocalls daily, I respectfully request a favorable report. Thank you.
Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you. And Mr. Chairman, typically out of respect to my opposition, I usually stay, but I have to testify in another committee, so with your indulgence, I may have to leave. Thank you.
No problem. Patrick Halley, Sean Looney.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Sean Looney from Comcast, respectfully in opposition to this legislation, well-intentioned, and we are in violent agreement that we all hate robocalls, but there is no way we can do what this bill is asking or requiring us to do. And the memorandum of understanding is that we will do our very best to our best ability to identify if, in fact, we can find out who these folks are. I asked like 20 different people at Comcast, is there any way we can know who's making these robocalls? And we just can't. So it's a great idea. I wish we could identify them and better cut off the robocalls so I wouldn't be bothered at my house, but we just can't do it. And none of the telecom companies can do it. It's just not technically possible to do this. So for that reason, I request an unfavorable report. Thank you.
Sean, thank you for coming today. My question really is, but she's asking you to collect certain information. You can't do that either?
We don't know who makes robocalls.
No. The information that, to my understanding, is, the certain specific information from your commercial customers. You can't do that?
The way I'm reading the bill says that we collect information on companies doing robocalling, and we don't know who's doing robocalling.
But okay, so let's backstep it. But you do know, is it possible for you to get all this contact information that she's suggesting from each of your customers, or at least your commercial customers?
We could provide anyone, a database of every one of our commercial customers. You'll have no idea whether they're making robocalls or not. And
what about, use of bandwidth, things of that nature? I know there are certain determining factors that could increase the chance that these folks are using more than just, for regular day-to-day business. The amount of bandwidth that they use, the times that they call, things of that nature.
That would require us to monitor their calling activity, and we would have to monitor the calling activity of all of our customers. And I can guarantee you, especially after this work group meets on privacy and comes back, we're probably not going to be allowed. I don't think anyone wants Comcast to monitor each and every phone call that people make to determine whether that's a robocall or not.
And I appreciate that, but that's not what I was asking. I was saying bandwidth usage. I really was not talking about. And I only say this because it would be nice if we could do something more than we're doing. And I know you guys are doing a lot, but I don't disagree with the delegates' vision, because it's horrific. It's to the point now where my cell, I just don't answer, and I miss out on a lot of money because of it. So I know what you can't do, and I appreciate that, but it would be really nice if some of the opponents could tell us about what they can do, what we think we can do, how we could actually do something in Maryland to, stem this tide, because it's not getting better. It is actually getting worse.
Absolutely. We have heard from our customers. That's why we are trying to do things that, again, we guess via AI analytics that it might be a robocall, and we'll indicate to customers that it might be a robocall. Even then, we've had complaints because they'll say, hey, my realtor called me and they called from a different number and you identified it as a possible robocall and I didn't answer the call. So it's a very imprecise science. We're doing the best we can because we know our customers hate it and we want to keep our customers. So it's a war, and as each side escalates the technology, we're trying to stay ahead of the other side. But honestly, the person in Costa Rica or Thailand, they're not going to care about Maryland law on this one.
And one last thing, is it easy to determine who's calling from within Maryland and who's calling from outside of Maryland?
No.
There's no way of telling.
Especially if they're not our customer. If they are our customer and the call originates on our network, we may be able to determine that.
But that's what she's asking you to do, monitor your customers, though, correct? Not all customers. Not all calls that come through, but just your customers by this bill's design.
Yeah, and that is equally impossible to do.
You see where I'm going, right? It's
I
not-
see where you're going.
Yeah,
It would be
it
great
isn't
if we could do
narrow.
it, and
Yeah.
if there was some technology, and maybe there will be. I mean, maybe someone will invent a technology that could
No, just
flag
answer the
this.
question, Mr. Chair. I'll let you go. No.
Yes.
Delegate Turner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, I'm sitting here looking and no one, I mean, I hate these robocalls, okay? And I keep hearing you saying over and over again, there's no way, there's no such thing as, ain't no way, that you can, all of your customers that complains to y'all, first of all, let me ask this question. How many complaints you got? Do you have a number of the complaints that your customers have call you and tell you about some of these robocalls? You don't have a number, do you?
I could find that from our customer service people. I'm sure if they track that specifically as far as that kind of complaint, I'm sure I could get that data, or I'll ask for it if you'd like to see it.
Yeah, I would. And you said you want so much to make your customers happy.
Yes.
Okay, and I'm one of your customers. And so I want to be happy. Okay, so
I want you to be
I
happy.
want to be happy. So I want to know that you are your company is going to try, not say you can't do this, but try to find a way to stop some of these robocalls from your company, okay? Because you got a good company now. Your company about this. Is there any way can you just say we will try?
We are trying. I can say that with confidence. We are trying to get ahead of this problem, and we welcome any and all suggestions as to how to do it.
Okay, well, I'm gonna see what you're gonna do because I'm gonna monitor you, and then I'm gonna call in and make sure I keep a number of all the calls that I get that I can't stand. Okay,
Great.
personally. Okay, thank you very much, Mr.
Sure.
Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question is along the line of my colleagues. So are you suggesting, Mr. Looney, that this is an industry-wide issue, that if I were to ask, let's say, Verizon or one of your competitors, they would give similar answers? It sounds like it's very reactive, and that maybe it's safe to say there's no plan in place to really tackle this issue. It's almost like we don't really know how to deal with this or mitigate it.
No, we are trying to deal with this issue as best we can, but there are limits to technology and what we can do. So the only way you could conclusively do what this bill requires us to do would be for us to somehow, and I don't know that we can even do this, but we would have to monitor every phone call made in our network to determine whether that is a robocall or not. And I asked 20 different people at Comcast, and I'm sure Verizon asked their engineers and their people the same question. There is no technical way to determine that right now.
But there's got to be some ways that you guys are already doing something to mitigate the volume, right?
All we are doing, as I told Delegate Wilson, is we use AI analytics to say this may be a robocall based upon a computer model when we notice a certain pattern of calling. But even that is not 100% accurate, because if it's a little league, for example, that wants to send out a notice that the game has been canceled because of rain, and they have 200 kids that play on these teams, and if we were to flag that and somehow stop that, then the little league people would be upset with us for stopping their calls when they're saying, hey, all we're doing, we're calling people who asked us to call them to let them know when a game is being canceled. So there is no perfect technology yet. I'm sure there's some really smart people somewhere working on technology, but it's not there yet.
Well, thank you. I just want to say, I hope you sense the deep frustrations among legislators.
Yes.
And we hope you have some more proactive plans in place to instead of using the excuse of technological challenges. I think this is a widespread problem. Thank you.
Sean, I got a phone call this morning that says potential spam. How does that happen? that the artificial?
That's the artificial intelligence analytics. We look at, and again, I'm not an engineer, I'm a lobbyist, but we try to do the best we can using the technology we have at on our network to say, is this potentially, and by the way, that could have been your wife calling from a business location that you wanted to get the call. But again, the technology is trying to do the best it can, and this was part of this memorandum of understanding. We said, using the technology available to us today, we're going to do the best we can to identify this. So that's why you see that. And we're doing the best we can with the technology available to us, but the bad guys have lots of money too, and like I said, this is like a war of attrition at this point.
And I'm sorry she's not here because I would be interested in hearing her thoughts and your response to this later. Talked about this sort of national pact with attorney generals, and she said that companies, were you all involved with that conversation and that commitment?
I was not directly involved.
Not
but
you personally, was Comcast?
Yeah, Comcast is involved with that,
Okay.
yes.
And so what she's saying is that what this bill does is it takes the agreement that was made in that context and puts it into Maryland law. Is that your understanding?
Well, that's kind of true. What it does is the memorandum of understanding was to say, we as an industry will do the best job we can with the technology available to manage this problem. Well, this bill is saying you have to do this right away and do this 100% fail-safe detection system, which we don't have, and we never made a commitment at the federal level with the AG memorandum of understanding.
So what did you mean in the commitment you made with that memorandum of understanding with the AG? What did you understand your commitment to be that you're putting into place?
Our commitment is to do the very best we can with available technology to manage this problem.
Can you give an example of
that? An example is when we use our AY system, if we detect calls that might be spam, we notify customers of that to let them know maybe you don't want to answer this call because it could be a potential robocall.
Okay, thanks.
Very much.
Thank you.
That concludes our hearing on House Bill 1278. I'd now like to go to House Bill 1124, Delegate Feldmark.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Everybody come to the panel with me?
Sure.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Madam Vice Chair, committee members. For the record, I'm Delegate Jessica Feldmark. I'm pleased to be here to present House Bill 1124. I have a robust panel today, so I'll keep my overview fairly simple. House Bill 1124, Right to Repair, would allow consumers to exercise the full rights of ownership over the products they purchase, including the right to repair those products. Now, this sounds pretty simple and straightforward, so why does it require legislation? Because unfortunately, over time, and with the advancement of technology, manufacturers have made it more and more expensive and more inconvenient to repair products, especially digital electronic products. Some manufacturers retain the ability to repair their products exclusively for themselves, and some choose to negotiate business agreements with designated authorized repair providers. As a result, it becomes too expensive, too inconvenient, or in some cases, simply impossible to make even simple repairs because the manufacturer can simply choose not to repair a product, requiring the consumer to purchase a new one. This leaves the consumer with the only choice to purchase a replacement product or go without. And the reality is, in the course of our world today, given our dependence on electronic devices, going without isn't really a viable option. So the only choice is to purchase a new product. So this is problematic for several reasons. First, as I mentioned earlier, consumers lose their full rights of ownership in not being able to repair the products they own. They're forced to spend more money on overpriced repairs or purchasing replacements. Our stream of electronic waste is an ever-growing burden and strain on our environment. And our small businesses that provide independent repair services are suffering. House Bill 1124 addresses these problems by requiring manufacturers to make the necessary documentation,
parts, tools, or updates available to independent repair providers or owners on fair and reasonable terms. This will help us keep more money in consumers' pockets and in our local economy. It will decrease the proliferation of electronic waste, and it will help us be more sustainable and resilient by maintaining a strong network of independent repair businesses. I ask for your favorable report. Thank you.
Chairman, my name is Emily Scar with Maryland PIRG, the State Public Interest Research Group. We have small donor members across the state. We support HB 1124, Right to Repair, or as we like to call it, just let us fix our stuff. Companies are using their power in the marketplace to make it harder to repair things or even designing them to fail. And when we can't fix them, we have to buy new, as the delegate said, which has drastic consequences for our environment and our pocketbooks. To be clear, this policy is already in effect for car manufacturers and independent repair shops through a voluntary legal agreement that they created, an MOU, similar to what we heard before, after Massachusetts passed a similar law like this in 2014. So what we're doing is taking that law and agreement that's worked for car manufacturers and applying it to all electronic devices. It's tested and it works. While no state has taken action yet, states introducing bills has pushed some of the industry to move in the right direction, which is great to hear. But we know that we're going to need legislation and to ensure that all companies are actually enforcing right to repair and making sure that folks have access to the tools and information they need to repair things. So when you need to repair a smartphone, an electronic device, your washing machine is smart these days even, or a computer-enabled tractor, you need things like spare parts, documentation, and diagnostic software and specialty tools. And so what we're doing is actually breaking up the monopoly that those manufacturers have with them in their licensed repair shops. And so that independent repair shops and some very handy individuals, but more likely independent repair shops, can fix things. We estimate that Marylanders throw 7,000 cell phones each day, and electronic waste is the fastest stream of waste in the world. I just want to address one concern around cybersecurity. This does not in any way affect people's ability to actually edit code. I'm not a coder, so we have lots of other folks who can ask technical questions. But devices are either secure or they're not, and the information we're asking for shouldn't jeopardize that. So with that, I recommend a favorable report. Thanks for your time.
Good afternoon, committee chairman and committee members. Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Rob Link from the Repair Association. We're a small nonprofit advocating for right to repair. Today I'm here to represent the thousands of repair people and repair shop owners who take good care of our technology every single day. I myself used to own a successful repair business in the DC metro area, a small business that at one point had 10 repair shop locations and employed 75 people. I tried for years to get Apple's attention to help them repair their devices, iPhones, iPads, and iPods, that I saw in my shop every single day. Unfortunately, the only attention I got from Apple was negative. More on that in a second. Right to repair legislation is past due. Today, I want to talk to you about small business. The vast majority of independent repair shops around the country are small businesses. Many of them people who have found their niche in the world and have lifted themselves and their families up. Some are here today. Say hi, guys. Or they're watching this broadcast to see what you will do. Why? Because they're under attack from large corporations who want to restrict repair in order to sell more devices when, in many cases, a new device is not needed. This monopoly on repair has to end now before more small business people are hurt. In Maryland, small business thrives. You know that. There are over 581,000 small businesses in Maryland, which is 99.5% of Maryland businesses. 1.1 million people are employed by these small businesses, which is more than 50% of Maryland's private workforce. Since my time's limited, I'm going to skip ahead. I was going to tell you a little bit of story about my business and how Apple came in, raided my shops with ICE agents to try to find customs infractions, scared my staff half to death, almost arrested a couple of them, and it led to the downfall of our business. I have that in my notes that I filed if anybody's interested in reading that story. I sold my business in 2016 because I just could not compete with Apple. Right now, we need right to repair because small business is getting hurt bad, and I'll just be another second here. Capital Mac in Baltimore, after 3 decades of business, recently closed. They were an Apple sales and service authorization. District Repair in DC closed after 10 years of business at a perfect 5-star Yelp rating They had joined an Apple pilot program just 6 months before they were forced to close up shop. I could name others. Why do we need right to repair in Maryland? In the last 12 months, more than 746,000 Marylanders went to iFixit to find repair guides and repair parts to fix their stuff. In a soon-to-be-released survey, 89% of independent repair technicians said that they would be more successful if they had access to repair software from Apple or Samsung. Maryland legislators,
sir?
the ball is now in your
Sir,
court.
we really need to wrap this
I'm
up.
closing right now, I promise, sir. I apologize. It's the first time doing this first time doing this. Please pass the right to repair legislation. I apologize, sir. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairman and members of the committee. I am Emily Ranson with Clean Water Action, and we have submitted testimony that many other environmental groups have signed on as well. We're very interested in right to repair legislation in order to give Marylanders the right and option to repair their belongings and extend their usable life. And that reduces the waste that is both landfilled or burned or generated when devices have to simply be purchased new. The right to repair enables consumers to practice the principles of reduce, reuse, and recycle. If Marylanders were able to hold on to our phones for just one more year on average, it would reduce the climate pollution equivalent to taking 11,000 cars off the road. And it would have significant savings in our, when we're looking at raw mineral use as well. So right to repair enables consumers to keep their belongings working longer and reduces the demand for raw materials, transportation, as well as space. So one of the best ways to reduce this growing issue of electronic waste is to interrupt the market pressures that are forcing all of us to replace products. And instead, if we have widespread and reasonable opportunities to repair and reuse, we can extend their life. So once again, this will allow millions of tons of useful products to remain in use instead of filling landfills, and more impactfully, it will reduce the burden of source material, manufacturing, and transportation of unnecessary new devices. So thank you, and we urge a favorable report.
Good afternoon, Chairman Davis, Vice Chair Dumais, members of the committee, Steve Sakamoto-Wengel, here on behalf of the Consumer Protection Division of the Attorney General's Office. We're here in support of House Bill 1124. I won't repeat what has been said. I just want to note that when the auto repair market was opened up to independent facilities, it both made it more convenient for consumers to get their automobiles repaired, as well as lowered the cost for consumers. And we believe that the same thing should happen with electronics. So we urge a favorable report on this bill. Thank you.
Delegate Walker.
Just trying to get the bill a little bit. So this is saying if I've got an iPhone and I don't want to go to Apple to have it repaired, I can go to a private store, a private shop, and you all can fix it. But at the end of the day, my phone is still, it's on a shelf life. They're only built to last for so long, right? So you all are saying if we pass this bill, then instead of me having to get rid of the phone that day, I may be able to extend the life for a year?
Yeah, or longer. So right now you can take your phone to Apple. There's some repairs that Apple won't even do that independent repair shops can. So I think one of them is the charging port. So if you go into Apple and say, hey, my phone's not charging, they'll say, we don't repair that. You should get a new one. You're up for a free upgrade, and they'll give you a new one, where an independent salesperson could. So what this is doing is making sure that any repair shop has the same tools that an Apple store can, and materials.
So you all can fix a charging port on the phone?
Not me, but yeah, some other smart folks can.
So just to clarify, what this does is it requires the manufacturer to make available at reasonable cost the tools and documentation necessary so that an independent repair shop can fix their products.
So you're asking Apple to say, okay, here's how you fix our phones, right? Because I'm assuming now if we were to do this and we were to use an independent third-party person that's not verified from them, I guess, would that void the warranty? Like a lot of times, if you've got a warranty, if you use an outside entity, then it's gone.
Oh, the intent of this bill is that it would no longer void the warranty. Right now, what Apple might tell you is if you take your iPhone to be repaired anywhere but an Apple store, that's going to void the warranty. And this would allow independent repair shops to get the knowledge and tools they need to also make those repairs without voiding the warranty on your phone.
All right, and you're saying, and you would be able to fix, I think the gentleman on the end said, so the charging port he talked about, you could fix that, right? But
Yes, absolutely.
would
In
it
fact,
be-
you'd
is it
be
more
amazed
cost-
at what can be repaired.
Is it more cost efficient to have it fixed or to have it replaced?
Have it
what you've
fixed,
seen?
absolutely.
And is it-
iPhones go for around $1,000. You can do a charge port repair for $15.
$15?
Yeah.
Wow, okay. And is it just for?
That sounds good,
I ain't talking. Now, is this also for, is it just for telephones or is it for, I saw a list of things, but I also saw some things excluded. Is this for televisions and washing machine? Delegate, maybe you'll tell me, what does it cover?
Right, it's anything controlled by digital electronics embedded in or attached to the product, right? So we're talking mostly about things that we think of as digital, but there may also be your coffee maker or your refrigerator is actually, there's a digital component.
What about smart televisions?
Yep.
Yeah.
The only thing it doesn't include is cars.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So that's right where I want to pick this up. The only thing it doesn't include is cars. So large industrial equipment, Caterpillars, big dump trucks, if they have electronics and they have, smart programming for their engines, they don't appear to be exempted in this bill. So you want to include those because most of the testimony is about small disposable consumer electronics. But, okay, big farm equipment. We still have some farms in Howard County. We've got farmers paying.
Yeah, the farmers have been some of the strongest advocates. Yeah, there's actually a second bill that's just on farm
You actually
equipment.
have some strong opposition, too.
Yeah, I know.
So,
Right.
to the bill sponsor, I just want to make sure, your intent, you've limited out motor vehicle manufacturers, but you're leaving a wide swath of stuff in here that is not small disposable consumer electronics.
Correct.
Okay.
This bill, you'll hear a separate bill that's focused specifically on farm equipment. This bill is inclusive of all of that as well.
But this bill captures farm equipment and large.
As well.
And the
Yes.
reason cars are exempt, as we said, is because
I'm just talking to the bill sponsor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
To the question about being able to repair this phone. You want to be able to repair the phone, and if something happens to you're trying to repair it, you want the manufacturer to still warrant it. Is that what you said?
Right, we want the manufacturer is going to provide the repair facility with the instructions on what they need to do to be able to repair your phone, and whatever tools they would need to be able to repair your phone. And that should not void the warranty, just as it is with your car. If you take it to Jiffy Lube, get your oil changed, that's not going to void your warranty.
Not necessarily, but if you make a modification to it, if you change, like, I don't know how many of these you've opened up, but repairing a cell phone isn't a $15 issue. I don't know what on the phone could be done for $15. But I look at the size of a motherboard or something on these things, and you're saying you can repair that better than Apple by replacing that motherboard.
Absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt. There's two experts in this room right here.
But you want Apple to maintain the warranty after you've done it?
It depends on what the issue is, but yes. There's no reason it shouldn't be, because it is much, I know electronics look complicated, and motherboards look complicated, but an expert working on a motherboard knows what they're doing.
Can you repair a motherboard?
Yes, or me personally, no.
A six-layer
But they
motherboard?
can
You
be.
can repair a six-layer motherboard.
Yes, and there are two experts in this room that'll blow you away with what they could do.
Okay, that's fine, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Steve, just can you touch on if there's any conflict with federal trademark or any federal laws?
Well, the bill specifically exempts trade secrets, so Apple or another company would not have to provide trade secrets to the repair facilities, so.
Okay, I guess that answers. Thank you.
Excludes trade secrets, well, what about copyright law? I imagine that some of the information that are on these devices are copyrighted, and there's probably a reason that they wouldn't want a repair person to have access to that underlying information?
We're not asking for all the information, so the information that this bill asks for is the same information that Apple gives to their techs in the store. I don't think they're giving them proprietary information or copyrighted information. All of the federal copyright laws are still intact. We're not asking for the source code or anything like that. They're literally just asking for the same tools that any 23-year-old who works as an Apple genius gets.
That's the actual name of a tech?
That's what they call them, the Apple geniuses, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Now go on.
You had your store. Somebody could come into your store and get their iPhone fixed. You had the capability, it seems like, in certain ways
Yes,
to
sir.
fix an iPhone.
Yes,
so
sir.
nothing prevented them from doing that. It was just a matter if they wanted to take a chance with you or not, right?
Well, hopefully they weren't taking a chance. But we actually, and when I first started out, when the iPhone first launched, we actually had referrals from Apple stores to our locations before Apple started doing repair work. So yeah, we had a very good reputation in our market, and lots of customers came in. What we're seeing now is that Apple, and I hate to pick on them only, but then again I don't, is very restrictive with what they do to repair. They're trying to cut off flow of parts and supplies. They're trying to serialize parts so that a part can't go into a phone. And obviously they're going to knock down, independent repair as much as they can, which you'll hear from some opposing lobbyists today.
Yeah, and I mean, that's business. I mean,
Sure, absolutely.
You can tell, they don't, so they've got it, they create it, and they want to do it. But I'm trying to see now, I'm almost thinking this bill's getting bigger than what we're talking about now, about, customer repair. Like, this is almost like going after a business model that Apple and Samsung have set in place. Right? I mean, if you want to buy an iPhone, you want their technology they have, then you're going to have to use compatible Apple earbuds, compatible charging stuff. But it kind of that's their business model, what they set in place.
Well, and I think that really gets to the point of recognizing a consumer's right in owning a product and having the right to repair that product.
Yeah, but Delegate, they're not saying you can't go to a store like this to get it fixed. They're just saying, if you want us to still keep our name and behind it and back your product, then use one of our service providers.
Sure. With the serialization of parts, for instance, this is a good example of battery. Okay, a battery is something we've all replaced in our cars, and we've done it easily, right? No problems. In a battery in a phone, though, they're making it now so that it's serialized to go into a specific phone, and it has to have software to sync that. So as an independent repair tech, if I took one iPhone over here and one iPhone over here and tried to swap the batteries, it would give me a warning message. So even though it's an OEM part, it's going to give me a warning message, and I don't have access to that. There's no danger.
That's kind of business. Like, when my key, if I have to have my key replaced, I have to get it linked in, so I got to pay $300 for a key. I don't like it if I lose it, but, it's a key, it's a sync, and I'm sure Delegate Wilson, he's got a Tesla. So I'm sure getting a Tesla battery replaced is going to be it's kind of
and with respect, Delegate, a key is obviously a security concern. A battery is a thing that makes your device go. So just like putting gas in your car, if you had to pay $300 to get a license to put gas in your car, you probably would not like that car.
So maybe I'll get a Tesla like CT.
I'm going to go on to the next panel.
Thank you, Mr.
Jessa Jones, Louis Rossman, I. Bowie Hall, Maxwell Block, and Matt Fisher.
Do a competition fixing a 6-layer motherboard?
Yeah,
See, you can do it
why don't
first.
we just cancel this and we'll fix the motherboard right here? I'll take that challenge.
This will be fun.
Is this our full panel?
All right, so I'll start. So my name is Louis Rossman. I run a company called Rossman Repair Group in New York. I don't do business in Baltimore, but I've had about $38,000 of business sent to me from customers in Baltimore over the past year and a half. So there seems to be an interest in repair here. What this bill is about is the ability to fix your own stuff. So just to give you an idea of where we're coming from, about 30 or 40 or 50 years ago, when you bought a computer, appliances, they would come with schematics and diagrams if you opened it. If it didn't, you could contact the manufacturer and get access to it. Today, you can't do that, and even if you're an authorized repair center of the manufacturer, you're not allowed access to parts to do your job, even if you do go through all their training, and I included that in the testimony that I provided. There's one chip that goes into one of the newer machines, and it was a charging chip, so that it would charge the battery and allow the machine to turn on. I used to be able to buy this chip for $5 or $10 if I just go to Mouser or DigiKey. What Apple did is they changed the address of the charge chip on this off-the-shelf part and then told the company, Intersil, don't sell this chip to anybody else. If you go to the Apple store to get this device fixed, they will charge you $1,500 if that chip has failed, and none of us are able to buy that chip. If your data is stuck on that device, that means your data is gone. Apple doesn't offer data recovery as a service, so even if you wanted your data recovered, you have no option. And it doesn't mean that we can't. Now, one of you asked, they're not trying to stop you from doing your job. You can still go to an independent. You can, but what that's done is it's criminalized the process of me doing my job. I still get access to that chip. I can't tell you how, but I do. And I just find it strange that I grew up in a culture where buying marijuana was illegal and fixing your devices was, but now getting the chip to fix a MacBook is illegal and you can obtain marijuana. I just find it strange how that part of the culture has changed over the years. There was also one question about warranty, which is, does this mean that if someone brings a product to the store after having it messed up at an independent repair shop, that's still covered under warranty? And no, if a repair center messes up something, the manufacturer could point to it and say, they messed this up, that's not covered under warranty anymore. This bill doesn't affect that Magnuson-Moss Act at all.
All right, I'll go next. Hi, my name is Jessa Jones, and I grew up in Maryland, and I went to College Park, and then I went to grad school at Hopkins. And then since then, I've been living in Rochester for the last 20 years. So I came for this special trip just because this bill is so important to me. I run a repair shop where we do micro-soldering of motherboards in iPhones, mostly for the purpose of data recovery. Because the iPhone is so secure, the only way to get those pictures out of that phone when it goes in the toilet or the washing machine is to fix the motherboard and get it to turn back on. Now, there's a couple things that I really want you guys to know. Number one is that you're going to hear that the consumers have plenty of options for authorized repair, and that's not really true. Authorized repair is manufacturer-controlled repair, which is another word for sales. And if you just think about it, like if you have an iPad and you go to the Apple store with a cracked screen, guess what your options are? Buy a new one. That's it. Apple doesn't repair a simple cracked screen. They don't repair a charge port. They don't repair a headphone jack. They don't fix cameras. It's really, really limited to just screens and batteries. That's the only thing you have an option for. When I was back here, I had to fly at 4:30 in the morning, and when I got here, one of the pages helped me with this map, which I thought was really cool. This was his idea to show you guys. Look here in pink. 1, 2, 3, Bethesda, 4, Bethesda, 5. That's your Apple stores, your authorized Apple stores here in Maryland. I grew up down here on the Eastern Shore in Snow Hill. I'd have to take a day off of work and drive all the way, even to get to the place that can only do a screen or battery for me that can't really fix the device. The other thing that I want you to know is that we can fix a lot of stuff. I can fix your charge port. But that is going away, and I'm seeing that. You just heard Rob tell you an example. Today, if I put a battery from Lewis's iPhone into my iPhone will lose a function because that battery serial number is married to the device that only Apple can reprogram it. That's what we're asking for. That's why I love the Maryland bill, because it includes that. Just give us access to the same little dongles that reprogram and say, fine, this serial number, now that's your charge port, go. And let us do what we've been doing. And I loved how you guys responded to the robocall thing. It made me want to move back to Maryland. Who's next?
Thank you. I'm here with unallocated space. It's a 501c3 makerspace out of Severn, Maryland. I am an electronics technician with 20 years of experience in the field. I work with this makerspace to teach people how to repair their own toys, cell phones, whatever electronics comes to the door. We'll sit down, work with them, and teach them how to do these repairs. They're not all that simple. A certification in this field is certainly useful for a manufacturer point of view, but when you get right down to it, learning these skills takes a lot of time and effort through study, through getting a whole bunch of equipment together and getting a literacy in what it is to actually speak and work with technology. When you take these things and you try to actually leverage them, that's when you get into real trouble. There are people in Shenzhen, China that can take parts off of street vendors and assemble their own cell phone relatively commonly and reliably. The same process can happen here. We have very smart people, but we are rendered artificially ignorant of how to speak this language due to various, not very, how to put it, disruptive trade practice, where all we need to do is take the contents of a chip off the chip, replace the chip, and put it back on. We haven't done anything to security or anything else. We're just fixing the phone. But using copyright, they have tried to cinch this down. I would propose that right to repair is very similar to fair use. Give us educational fair use to access these resources, to be able to learn from them, and maybe we can finally catch up and we don't have to know how to use technology, we can really understand it. Thank you for your time.
My name is Maxwell Block. I'm a resident of Catonsville, Maryland. Grew up there on Miller Avenue down the street from an independent repair store called JBS Electronics. Being able to visit it in walking distance definitely grew my interest in technology. I don't repair devices. I work in technology, but it's software, so I depend on the use of a laptop, but I don't really know what goes on inside of it. But I do count on there being a number of independent repair stores available for me to choose from to take my business to. So I've heard a lot of things from people here who are independent repair providers saying that their jobs are becoming much, much, much harder. And this echoes sentiments that I heard from this local Catonsville business about being able to repair TVs, VCRs, and stereos as the supply chains got harder and harder to do. So just a couple of comments here. My main concern, and I took some time off of work today, affecting my income today to come down here and address this committee, because ultimately this affects my ability to choose independent repair providers and affects my wallet as well. I've heard about warranty, and I'd like to maintain the choice to speak to these independent businesses and say, hey, you can give me a free estimate. And if they have access to the tools and documentation needed to do the job, they can provide me that estimate. If they no longer have access to the tools and documentation to do that job, they have to throw their hands up and say, I'm sorry, I can't fix this. You have to take it somewhere else. But I'd really like to depend on my ability to continue to choose these businesses that I've built a relationship with over the years. So at the end of the day, for me, it's about cost, common sense, and competitiveness. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And to the business owners, thanks for taking time out of the day to come up and visit. I'm a small business owner as well, and it's worth it for you to come up and testify. Is this primarily an iPhone issue? It's cell phones, and now it's a subset of iPhone. Are they the offender for which you're trying to pass a bill?
This is something that affects almost every industry at this point. So, I mean, Nikon just recently got rid of their repair program. Many companies are doing the exact same thing. I work exclusively on Apple products, so I can speak best to what they're doing specifically, and they're one of the worst offenders. However, many other companies are copying what they're doing in many different fields. That's why, as she was saying before, that this is even something that's been affecting farm equipment and tractors. I was very surprised when I went to testify on behalf of this in Nebraska that there were farmers there showing up. I didn't know that they had the exact same problems that we did until I had met them.
So the reason why I ask about the iPhone is I've got a Motorola, and literally they have on their repair line here that there's actually a fix-it-yourself option. I mean, they're showing you how to go about fixing your phone yourself and also sending it to third-party providers. So it seems like each manufacturer is deciding for themselves the approach that they'd like to take, and I'm not sure I don't think I would disagree with that approach. If a customer buys an Apple product, I think there's a certain expectation. I know when I have an iPad, and so it is difficult sometimes to do business with Apple, but you just kind of know that, right?
Can I respond
As opposed to my son who built a computer himself and was able to pull parts and literally rebuild a computer, right? So we're talking about the same sort of thing. There are things for which we buy and pay a premium for, and when it goes wrong, it's costly enough where I want it fixed, right, and sending it back to the manufacturer appears to be an approach. And then there are things that perhaps have a different approach, and consumers know that when they're buying up front, don't you think?
Now, let's say for the Motorola example, they actually do have a program for selling parts, but they don't have an access for, let's say, schematics and other areas that we would need if we were to do, let's say, data recovery on those products or board repair on those products. So they are most certainly better than the other manufacturers, but they still do take certain elements from other companies that have anti-repair policies. I wouldn't say they're as bad as Apple, but there are definitely things that could be done better, and that this would apply to many other companies besides just, let's say, Apple and Samsung and John Deere.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, would you,
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you all for your testimony. I think this is an interesting bill. I just want to get a sense, I thought I heard the sponsor say that there's no legislation in any other state that does this, though. Is that different, or you do this someplace in other states? I know you all are from other areas. Is there some sort of right to repair in New York or other places?
Yes, we've been going to hearings like this for a long time because it requires a lot of thought, because there's a lot of misconception. I think that even this guy, if he buys an iPad, expects that if his kid cracks it, that he can go back to the Apple store and they'll fix it, but they won't. And that's a surprise.
So there's legislation in these other states?
There's legislation in multiple states. Nothing has ever come to a floor vote ever in any of these states.
So there's no past legislation in any states?
That's right. There's all this pending legislation that
Gotcha.
everybody's been
Thank
talking
you.
about for a while.
I guess I'll go ahead and ask it. I was just thinking that because the technology advances so rapidly, oftentimes is it worth it to repair, like an iPhone or something like that, because it's almost at warp speed, the advancements.
Well, I sure think so. I've fixed 10,000 iPhones. And I think that the consumer deserves to make that decision themselves. So really, it's just about whether or not a consumer can get it fixed affordably, and you really can. If the very limited authorized repair, AKA sales that there is often not economically feasible, which is part of why we don't think about it. If you go to the Apple store and they quote you a repair that's the same as the phone price, you don't think it's repairable. And you don't know that if you go down to the street, they can fix it for a really affordable price. But that depends on you being able to, take it apart out, put the same part back in, and have that device still turn on and not go, whoa, you don't have the right serial number, I'm dead now. And that's what we're asking for your help. Just let us keep doing what we've been doing and let consumers make the choice. Just say no to software locks and serialization and pairing so that we don't want to lose the ability. I mean, I have a team of 6 stay-at-home moms that work in my shop that I support. This is their job. And we fix phones all day, every day. And people love it. And so, yeah, I think you can fix phones and make sense.
I love it when you talk technically. Serialization pairing. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I echo my colleagues' sentiment in appreciating all the business owners for taking time to appear in front of us. I think this is a growing concern nationally, that we all admit this is not a consumer-friendly trend that we are seeing, because we're fighting against a monopoly, essentially, if not in at least one of the few big players. So given that there has been no past state-level legislation, I wonder if this is a national issue that needs to be addressed with some other entities. And on that front, my question is there some kind of association representing the dying breed of small-time repair shops that actually want to help customers fix up their appliances instead of having to go to this Apple, let's say whatever big player who can be arrogant about this and say, yeah, I know, I represent Montgomery County. There are only 2 Apple shops, and they're both in Bethesda within a couple of miles, and people living in Clarksburg, Germantown County just have to commute, So how do we fight back against that? I don't have an answer, but are there advocacy groups representing you guys? That's my question.
So I'd like to address your question, if I may. I'm in the Feldmark's district, and am really proud to see this bill in front of this committee today. And I'm here urging a favorable report because without other states having passed legislation, I'd certainly be really proud if Maryland would become a leader in this respect. Personally, I don't know if there are industry groups, but because, as you mentioned, this is a growing trend, I'm certainly going to be looking for coalitions and groups to join and amplify my voice if it's required. But hopefully in Maryland, we don't need to let that take very long.
There's also the Repair Association at repair.org that represents the most repair people that are in favor of this type of legislation, but most of it is just decentralized. So, her and I have YouTube channels where we just talk into a camera and show ourselves fixing devices, fixing motherboards, and, she's amassed, I think, 140,000. I've had 1.1 million people watching that just listen to this type of stuff. So outside of the Repair Association, it's mostly decentralized support from individuals.
Thanks for being here. Are there any companies that actually provide this information to you today?
There's no company that's provided this type of information or support in any kind.
Okay, and you mentioned you do 10,000 of these repairs.
Yes.
And my biggest question comes when you start looking at the screens and all the stuff that we're talking about that most of us actually break.
Yep.
You can still do that. Nobody's stopping you from doing any of the screen repairs.
No, I have to buy those screens when they fall off a truck in China.
Okay, but that's the same way every one of you have to do it. But you're still able to repair my iPhone, my Motorola, my Samsung.
Right now, today, if you came to me with a cracked screen, I'd say, what device? And if it's an iPhone 6, then sure, I can replace it. If it's an iPhone 11, that device has a new software lock, and it's going to wake up and say, I don't recognize that screen. You're going to lose some function.
But you're expecting Apple to give you trade secrets.
No, I'm not expecting any kind of trade secrets. I'm expecting a dongle that says, plug it in. Now that's your new screen. Done. I don't need to know what's in the dongle. I don't need to know how it works.
So whatever that dongle is, they have to do something different at their end to make you able to do that.
Not really. If I'm Apple certified, by the way, but I'm not Apple authorized, so I don't have access, even though I'm certified by Apple, to their existing dongle.
My last question was,
Yep.
Do any of you repair the motherboard?
Yes, all day, every day.
You repair the inner workings of the motherboard?
Absolutely.
6 to 10 layers.
Smash that like button and you can watch us do it
We live
live.
stream it every day.
Well, I'm going to have to get on your website. Thank you.
Yes. Thanks for your time, guys. I really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Cape Bryman, Brian Byrne, Andrew Rogers, Samuel Mensimer, and Chloe Hamansky.
The other person that was called is out sick today. So I guess it's just us. Go? Okay. All right. Hello, my name is Andrew Rogers. I'm a Maryland resident. I come here from Linthicum Heights, Maryland, near Baltimore. I also am a member of Unallocated Space, and I am a computer engineer that works for a small contractor in Burtonsville, Maryland, doing embedded software and data analytics. Right to repair is very important to me because, as an owner of many of these devices, I would like to continue to be able to repair them. I've been repairing my own devices since I was about 6th grade, right? It's not because you were still able to do so. This was before all these lockouts came in these things. I had an Apple iBook, and back before they started screwing over their customers, I used to be able to take like a part and replace it. But now it's getting harder to do that every passing day. I've also had when I was in between computer jobs, when I was still finding my way, trying to break into the industry and get what some might call a real job. I was working at a package handling facility for UPS, making ends meet, and my LG phone fell out of my pocket, and it shattered, and the screen was just completely broken. But because I was able to get the part for like $40, I was able to myself with just a few pictures online, was able to do the repair and slap it in myself with no. And I'm not professionally trained like electrical engineer or anything. I'm still going back to school to finish my classes while I'm working full time. Yeah, if you have any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Hello, my name is Sam Mensimer. I'm 16 years old. I'm a junior in high school. I have run an electronics repair business in Washington, D.C. since I was 12. I'm here today because right to repair is very important to ensuring the longevity of our electronics as they become a bigger part of our lives. I believe Jessa and the other panel mentioned the software locks that Apple's been putting in place on the batteries on the iPhone 11s and the newer models. Apple, I actually have a quote here from Apple that they responded to this saying, it's unsafe for people other than Apple authorized service providers to replace their batteries. I've been replacing batteries in iPhones since I was 12. I'm still here today. Got an iPhone right here. You can just pull there's some screws in here. You take the screen off, you pull some tabs out, and the battery comes out. I don't see how that's unsafe. They also, many manufacturers, like they mentioned before, they won't give us electrical schematics. They say it's like an intellectual property issue, and giving us access to that information would compromise their intellectual property. I don't really think that's a valid argument. I can make that schematic if I look at the device and go around for several hours with a multimeter probing around, figuring out where stuff goes. Also, a lot of companies have shown that that's not an intellectual property issue. This is an electrical schematic that I found tucked into the bottom of my Bosch dishwasher while I was fixing some electrical wires the other day after a rat chewed through them. So this piece of paper helped me fix that dishwasher with an 80-cent piece of wire and a $20 drain hose, as opposed to paying the $450 that we were quoted by the Bosch factory service technician. If I were able to get parts or schematics like this for things like this, I also repair motherboards. Jessa taught me how to repair motherboards. I went to her class. If I were able to get those schematics for an iPhone like this, I would be able to keep hundreds more devices out of a landfill and keep consumers from having to spend thousands of dollars on new devices. I encourage a favorable report, and I thank you for your time.
So this panel? Seeing none, thank you all for coming.
Could I also add, I would also like a favorable report. Forgot to say that.
All right, thank you all very much.
That's good. That's good.
That concludes the testimony of the proponents. We will now move to the opposition. Catherine Gunter, Ben Gallette, John Favaza.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. John Favaza with Manis Canyon and Associates. I'm here today on behalf of the Entertainment Software Association. I'm not sure I can be as compelling as the last group that was at the panel. They were very good. The Entertainment Software Association, we are you've heard a lot about phones, right? We've heard a lot of talk about iPhones and iPhones. We are video game console manufacturers. We are video game developers.
So we're in a little bit of a different business, and we're included in this bill also. You've heard there's two critical parts for us to be successful, right? One, we've heard about consumers. Well, obviously, we don't exist without our consumers. The gaming community is a very, very passionate group of people. They are a very vocal group of people, and when they're not happy, we hear about it. So it's in our interest to be responsive to them. It's in our interest to provide them with the best possible products and service that we can, and we believe we do that. And the second part, we also don't exist without protecting our intellectual property, our content. And this bill is a direct threat at that content. We've heard about small business. We all support small businesses. Well, guess what? We have a hub of developers that have been in Hunt Valley in Baltimore County for over 30 years. In a lot of cases, startup software developers. And all they have is their intellectual property and their content. That is their company. So they don't exist if they don't have those protections. One final thing I'll add before I turn it over to Catherine and Ben from ESA. There was a comment earlier about trade secrets and that sort of thing and them being exempt. That's exempt in this bill. This bill doesn't require that. This bill actually explicitly requires trade secrets to be turned over. If you look on page 4 of the bill, except as necessary to comply with the terms of the subtitle, you can't require somebody to divulge its trade secret. So that's an explicit requirement that to comply with the bill, we do have to turn them over. So I just wanted to clarify that point for the committee, and with that, I'll turn it over to Catherine and Ben, who have far more expertise than I do. Thanks.
Hi, thank you so much. Good afternoon, committee and vice chair. My name is Catherine Gunter, and I'm with the Entertainment Software Association. I just wanted to quickly kind of speak to this bill. It's been discussed as, fixing screens, and it's an Apple problem. We represent the video game industry, as John said, and in our view, this is not just a screen-fixing bill. This is the mandate of intellectual property to unauthorized repair shops. People who play video games represent a very diverse cross-section of the United States. So we have every age and gender, and as John mentioned, we have over 40 companies that are based here, including one of ESA's largest members, Bethesda. We've also heard that, repairs are more expensive. Our companies take it upon themselves to get their repairs fixed as quickly and affordably as possible so we can get our consoles back in the working hands of our players that are working in the same way that they bought them. These are very expensive machines, and we want to make sure that when repairs are done, they're done with a level of specificity and technicality where nothing can go wrong. There's a lot of parts that talk to each other, as been said before, and that's done to protect the copyrighted products that are inside of our secure platforms. Ben Gallant, one of my colleagues, will speak specifically to the IP questions and the federal law that we discussed earlier, but I just wanted to emphasize that as an industry, we really oppose the digital right to repair. And I'll yield the remaining time to Ben.
Well, thank you. My name is Ben Golant, and I appreciate being before you today. I'm the Chief Counsel for Intellectual Property Policy at ESA, and I just want to stress how important copyright law is to our members. Without copyright law, there would be no businesses in the video game business. And copyright law is important in this particular context because content protection is critical to prevent piracy. And we're concerned that this bill that would allow or prevent, or I should say, share information with others would somehow cause more piracy to occur because you're providing the technical know-how to unlock these digital locks that prevent piracy on these particular consoles. More important, we talked a lot about trade secrets, talked about trademarks, but it really is copyright. And copyright is a federal law. And in fact, when the issue of repair came before the Copyright Office in 2018, the Copyright Office said that of all the electronics out there, the importance of content protection for video game consoles is more than anything else. And so they had an exemption for us that said that There's no need for repair for consoles because the underlying content and the con protection tools under Section 1201 of the DMCA protect that particular content, and federal law abides. And in fact, it's important to point out that in Section 1201A2 of the DMCA, the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, it says, no person shall manufacture, import, offer to the public, provide, or otherwise traffic in any technology, product, service, device, component, or part thereof. So there's an anti-trafficking provision in federal law in which would provide a conflict if Maryland decided to have this bill before it. And I'd be happy to answer any questions for you.
Thank you. My name is Alan Schaefer. I'm Executive Director of the Diesel Technology Forum. We're a not-for-profit educational organization headquartered in Frederick, Maryland, established in the year 2000. Over the last 2 decades, we've spent a lot of time here in Annapolis and working with the Maryland Department of the Environment, supporting regulations and initiatives to reduce end-use diesel emissions from all kinds of machines and equipment. Just 2 years ago, we were here in Annapolis in support of since-enacted legislation from then-Delegate, now Senator Clarence Lamb, to establish higher fines and penalties for those found to be emitting excessive exhaust emissions from pickup trucks, a practice known as rolling coal. I'm here today to express my opposition to House Bill 1124 because if it's enacted, it will make Maryland's air dirtier, not cleaner. It will jeopardize heavy equipment safety, both for farmers, service technicians, and the general public that share the roads, and facilitate a practice that is potentially in violation of the Federal Clean Air Act. Now, diesel engines power almost all farm equipment today because they are efficient, powerful, durable, reliable, and now near zero emissions. They are near zero emissions because manufacturers have invested billions of dollars to develop advanced emissions control systems that are all controlled by engine management computers. It includes exhaust after-treatment systems that require periodic maintenance and replenishment of certain kinds of fluids. And this practice of right to repair opens up the blueprints and, frankly, Pandora's box for increasing emissions from this kind of machines and equipment across all applications. It's true that illegal tampering is happening now, but this practice of right to repair would hand over the keys to the car and make it happen a lot worse in the future. So for anyone who cares about the Chesapeake Bay and water quality, and I was surprised to hear some of the previous testimony from the clean water groups, this could potentially increase emissions of nitrogen oxide, which we all know is what we don't want for the Bay. We don't want that for clean air in Montgomery County, and we don't want it for Maryland's air quality compliance. There's also the safety factor, which is quite high, and I don't think anyone driving home tonight that might have to pass a tractor on a back road would want to see a part fly off of that or suddenly the machine become disabled or catch fire because someone improperly tampered with those emissions controls. So for all those reasons and others, we encourage your support, unfavorable report on HB 24.
Yes. Hi, my name is Larry Albert. I'm the Director for Product Safety Compliance and Standards for the Power Tool Group of Stanley Black & Decker, which is located in Towson, Maryland. Thank you for this opportunity to address the committee today on this important topic. I'm here to speak against HB 1124, which we believe puts the consumer at risk of injury rather than protecting them. Black & Decker has had a presence in Maryland for over 100 years, has over 2,000 employees working in Maryland, and it is still headquartered, and the Power Tool Group is still headquartered in Towson. We design, build, and sell power tools and electric outdoor power equipment worldwide. We are members of trade associations, Power Tool Institute and the Outdoor Power Equipment Institute, both of which, as we do, stress the importance of product safety in all of our actions. There's a huge amount of effort put into ensuring that all power tools and related equipment are safe, and that has always been the case through all different types of technology. Nowadays, most of modern power tools and outdoor power equipment use embedded microcontrollers, which utilize software to control their operation. Manipulation of the software, changing the electronics, can influence the safety of these tools to the effect that people could be injured when using a power tool that's been modified in such a way. We firmly support the principle of repair, which means to us bringing the tool back to its original operating condition. We oppose the actions of this bill, which would open the access to electronics, schematics, and software that would permit people to make changes to the operational code and circuitry that would influence the safety of these power tools and put operators at risk of injury. It is true that tampering is always taking place with power tools. People take guards off and people modify other kinds of aspects of the tool, but these are fairly obvious types of changes so that people that are about to use a power tool that's been modified in that way, in a physical way, are aware of the change that's taken place, the risk they're incurring. The kinds of changes that were proposed that could occur as a result of the proposed bill would make it such that software could be modified in such a way as to make a tool that was running at a certain speed now run much faster and cause, for example, grinding wheels to fly apart, causing injury. These are more insidious types of changes that are not obvious to the user of the tool. Urge you to deliver an unfavorable report on HB 1124. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm was listening to the previous panel, trying to read through some of the both proponents and opponents' testimony, and I think there's this issue around the cars, and I understand that issue has sort of been addressed through an MOU procedure instead of legislation, but it seems to me that it's analogous, these two gentlemen here, to this idea of a very technically complex, potentially dangerous, it's driving down the street, we don't want brakes flying off. And yet we seem to have a solution that works. And so I'm wondering, is it the concept of having this kind of a solution that works, of having independent repair shops that you're opposed to, or is it some specifics that are in the bill that we might be able to modify so that it would better mirror what has been very successful in the context of car repair?
Manufacturers have a working understanding right now of the way to address that question specifically. I think another panel coming up may speak to that more specifically.
So you mean that question being like, how could we mirror what's done with car repair in these other areas? Is that what